We would like to welcome you to today's webinar. The webinar today will be on one of our wonderful journeys to India and South Asia. We have these beautiful brochures which features journeys to Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan and Tibet. Please request this brochure from Bestway. Today's webinar will be on Sri Lanka. My name is Peter Langer. I am the Destination Marketing and Education Specialist of Bestway Tours and Safaris, and I will be your host to visit this fascinating destination. Bestway Tours and Safaris has been operating small group cultural journeys since 1978. We do operate tours to over 100 countries and have organized a number of specialized tours for universities, museums, and other renowned institutions. We have also created a specialized division called World Heritage Tours. This specialized division of Bestway Tours designs itineraries that feature cultural and also natural heritage sites inscribed in the World Heritage List of UNESCO. For these purposes, we have created this beautiful 40-page brochure, and throughout the webinar, when I mention a World Heritage Site, you will see this symbol here, which I'm showing to you here on your bottom right of your screen. This 40-page brochure is also available from Bestway Tours and Safaris. Today we are going to discover Sri Lanka, an island that is an eclectic mix of colonial history, religious traditions, and a unique culture, which is unique to the island, brings together its pluralistic identity. From the coasts of Colombo to the World Heritage Sites in the Cultural Triangle, this tour takes us on a journey through time, covering ancient civilization of both the Buddhist era and imperial rule. Sri Lanka is nothing short but an unforgettable adventure. Sri Lanka is located in the Indian Ocean, just a little bit south of India. The country has a population of approximately 20 million inhabitants. The languages spoken in Sri Lanka are English, Sinhalese, and Tamil. In terms of religion, the majority of the country is Buddhist, with approximately 70%. The capital city of Sri Lanka is Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte. Actually, the capital per se is Colombo, because Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte is a suburb of Colombo, so in reality everything revolves around the city of Colombo. Sri Lanka itself is a mountainous mass in the central part of the country, as you can see here. In the upland area there are two plateaus, the Nuwara Eliya and Horton Plains, which are also the major centers of commercial tea plantations. Sri Lanka's old name used to be Ceylon, and you still see that branded on the tea. North of the mountains and also extending south, there is an arid and gently rolling plain known basically as the dry zone. Sri Lanka has a long history which stems back approximately 2,500 years ago. In 504 before Christ, it got conquered by Vijaya, a Hindu prince from northeast India. 300 years before Christ, Buddhism is adopted as the national religion of the country. From the 3rd to the 12th century, Sri Lanka, or Sinhala as it was then called, was dominated by Tamil kings and by a succession of invaders from southern India. In the 16th to the 18th century, the country got colonized by the Portuguese and the Dutch. However, at the end of the 18th century, in 1795, Britain made the island a crown colony. That lasted approximately 150 years, as Sri Lanka became an independent member of the Commonwealth in 1948. From 1983 to 2010, A civil war between the Sinhalese-dominated government and the rebel liberation tigers of Tamil took place, and this has finally ended, which once again opens all the wonderful options to tourism in Sri Lanka in absolute safety. When to go to Sri Lanka is a good question. Sri Lanka is fortunately one of those round-the-year destinations. There's always a good time to visit at least some part of the country. Sri Lanka in general terms is hot and humid. However, the hill and mountain areas are cool, about 21 degrees, and in the evening it gets quite cool, so make sure that you do take a cardigan when you're visiting the tea plantation area. The period from November to April is the driest season on the southwest coast and up on the hills, and actually in many ways it's the best time to go. Also, in this region, some of the best beaches and many other places of tourist interest are located. On the other hand, from May to September is the best time to visit the east coast, as this is dry during this period. Hence, you can go to Sri Lanka pretty much any time. How to get there? There is really no direct connections from North America to Sri Lanka. You can travel via the Pacific, via the Middle East, and of course many services to India. India is extremely well connected. There's services many times a day from Delhi, Mumbai and Chennai. There are also services to Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kochi, Trichy, or Tiruchirappalli if you prefer, Coimbatore and Trivandrum. As a matter of fact, a flight from Trivandrum takes only 45 minutes to Colombo. So in many ways, Sri Lanka lends itself perfectly well for combination tours with southern India. Sri Lankan Airlines, which is partly owned by Emirates, also offers services from Asia, the Middle East and Europe, and also there's quite a number of charters which go from Europe to Sri Lanka, but these tend to be package tours, as there is a number of these all-inclusive resorts on the coast of Sri Lanka, very similar to what we can find in the Caribbean or in Mexico. Let's start our exploration of the country. Colombo is actually the commercial and financial capital of Sri Lanka. With a population of approximately 650,000, it has quite this typical 1920s, we would say, Edwardian Georgian architecture, which is still a remnant of the British colonial rule. There are some modern buildings, amongst them a wonderful Buddhist complex which was built on the site where the Buddhists landed 2,500 years ago, which is the Kelaniya Raja Mahavihara. The whole complex was revamped with aid of the Japanese government. Hence, this whole temple in Colombo has a bit of a Japanese influence. Then we travel into an area which is really what is called the cultural triangle. This is where you will find a number of World Heritage sites, starting with the sacred city of Kandy. This was the last capital of the Sinhala kings. Kandy was founded in the 14th century. It is built in a small wooded valley deep around an artificial lake. That artificial lake was actually created in between 1803 and 1807. The city in itself has much charm, and there is a huge monumental zone which is basically all in one complex. Here you will find the remains of the royal palace with the great audience hall, the temple of the tooth, the palace of Sri Wagrama, the queen's apartments, and the bathing house. This is one of the important aspects. Now, within that complex, there's a fascinating temple, which is a temple of the tooth. The temple of the tooth and the royal palace date actually from the 18th century. The tooth is actually claimed to be an upper canine tooth of Lord Buddha, and it is located, it's encased in this beautiful gilded stupa. the stupa is only opened, this treasury of this very prized possession is only opened at at 2 times a day amongst great ceremonial pomp and circumstance. Another wonderful thing to do in Kandy, particularly in the evenings, is to attend a cultural show. Here you will see a number of dances, various sort of acrobatic acts, and then what is most fascinating and very common in Sri Lanka is to see the fire eaters and the great spectacle of the fire walkers. So these men will be running bare feet over some hot burning coals in a very quick succession without actually burning themselves. Quite a feat and a definite must-see when you go to Kandy. From Kandy, nearby, we visit also the elephant orphanage in Pinawela. The Sri Lankan elephant, which is actually Asian elephants, was heading towards extinction. And the number in the 1800s was approximately 27,000. Now they are less than 3,000. At one point it was the elephant herd of all of Sri Lanka was under 1,000. The number has slowly risen to 3,000, and in Pinawela they have so many elephants because they find them orphaned mostly in the forest or so, that nowadays it features the largest herd of captive elephants in the world. It's a quite nice spectacle to go and see the elephants. This is not a circus or anything. They will not perform tricks. They just will be themselves. Yet it's nevertheless absolutely wonderful to see these elephants. From here, it's about a 2.5-hour drive to the sacred city of Anuradhapura. This is a very important UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it was established around the Bodhi tree in approximately the 3rd century before Christ. The visit of Anuradhapura takes place mostly in a car. The complex is very large. Think of a city, and by that I mean a city, not only a quick archaeological site you can walk through in an hour or two. There's a number of characteristics in all these wonderful archaeological sites in Sri Lanka, such as these moonstones, which show this whole succession, and they are at the bottom of the stairs of every temple. In Anuradhapura, there is a number of stupas, rocky promounts, very many holy sites. But the holiest of all of the sites is this Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree originated in India. As a matter of fact, a sampling was brought from India, where the original Bodhi tree came from, a place called Bodh Gaya. What is interesting about the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, according to legend, this is where Buddha attained enlightenment. So it is probably one of the holiest places in Buddhism. They took a sampling then, as I said, to Sri Lanka. The tree mercifully thrived and grew, and unfortunately a disease affected the tree in India, and that original Bodhi tree died. So they took another sampling from the Bodhi tree in Sri Lanka, took it back to India. So when you visit the Bodhi tree in actually Bodh Gaya, it originated from this one in Sri Lanka. This is probably the holiest of the holy sites. People come from not only all over the island, but all over the Buddhist world to pay their respects, to make their offerings at the actual temple of the Bodhi tree. There are delegations which come from Myanmar, from Thailand, from India, from all over the Buddhist world. Many Japanese will pay their respects to this wonderful tree. Nearby, and this is really about 20 minutes away or so, is one of these beautiful sculptures, which is the Abukana Buddha. The Abukana Buddha is a magnificent 39-foot rock-cut statue of Buddha. It was built in approximately the 5th century. It's a standalone. Again, this is a relatively quick visit. You visit it in maybe 15 minutes, regardless, to see the beautiful artistry of the rock-cut artistry of Sri Lanka is amazing. Talking of which, this is all in an area, as I mentioned earlier, called Sri Lanka's Cultural Triangle. We go to the Golden Temple of Dambulla. This is actually a temple complex. You have to go up approximately 150 meters on a number of stairs, easy to climb, not a monstrous exercise. And there are 5 beautiful caves which are all covered by Buddhist mural paintings and sculptures. Now, most of these sculptures in their original form, and because they were located inside the caves, preserve their original color. The caves and the sculptures, and you will find the Buddha in different poses, mostly sitting, reclining, and standing are the various statues, dates back to the 1st century before Christ. So they're about, 2,100 years old. The carving in the rock and the colors which were painted on the dresses make it almost appear as if these various Buddhas were dressed in textiles. It's a lovely excursion. Takes approximately a whole afternoon to visit the cave temples of Dambulla. From here, it's not too far to the next UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is the ancient city of Polonnaruwa. This was a capital which was founded in the 12th century. And very much like Anuradhapura, to travel through Polonnaruwa requires a car or at least a bicycle. Once again, we are dealing with the cities with the monumental ruins of a city. There is a number of stupas and temples, some with frescoes, but probably the great highlight is a sculptural group called the Galle. This is probably the summum of the rock cut art in Sri Lanka. We have cut out of the same rock a standing Buddha, a sitting Buddha, and a reclining Buddha. And the way it was sculpted, you can actually see that they used the most beautiful striations in the rock to make this beautiful compound. Again, the visit Polonnaruwa takes approximately 2 to 3 hours, a full afternoon or full morning, just to get a scratch on the surface. A full day would probably be adequate for this particular place. Nearby, and by that I mean approximately 2 hours away, is the ancient city of Sigiriya. Sigiriya is also, once again, a World Heritage Site. They're all very close by one to the other. This is an amazing site as you have to climb this immense rock. Sigiriya dates back to the 5th century before Christ, where it served as a Buddhist monastery. Now, on the top of the rock, and actually it's quite easy to access up to this point the rock. Sigiriya means lion rock, and you can see the paws of the lion in the front of the top staircase. Up to this point, it's easy access for any traveler, because you see these gorgeous frescoes which date back to the 5th century Anno Domini. There is a number of apsaras, or mythical dancers, which are painted into the rock. Also, there is a number of Sanskrit inscriptions which date back about 2,500 years. On the top of the palace, and this is actually difficult to access, is a number of pools. These pools were for the water supply of the upper area, and obviously we can see that this was a very good position to overview the entire countryside. Talking about the countryside, we then go on a completely different type of heritage that has now been, also parts of this has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and that is Nuwara Eliya. This is probably, not probably, this is the most important location of tea production in Sri Lanka. Usually the excursion into tea country takes 2 days. It requires an overnight as we are traveling over a lot of winding roads through these various tea gardens. What is fascinating is that tea is still not harvested mechanically. It is collected by mostly women. They do that in a machine which is in a machine-like fashion, which is incredibly fast. They use that red bar which you can see here on the photograph, and any leaves which are above that red bar get quickly collected. Then that gets taken to the actual plantation house and processed. As this was an industry which was brought in by the British, we will find that there's still quite a bit of an Edwardian feel to all these towns. And one of the great traditions is to obviously have high tea in the afternoon. Because the climate is quite balmy, in many ways we tend to think of little English villages which mostly remind us of the Lake District in England. The hotels here are also older plantation houses, beautiful heritage hotels. You really feel that you were taken back in time to times of what have you, Downton Abbey, upstairs, downstairs. It has very much that early 20th century British feel. Another important thing to visit in Sri Lanka is a number of national parks. Remarkable for such a small island, Sri Lanka has an incredible variety of wildlife, such as this Asiatic bear, for example. A number of primates can be seen. This can also be seen in the various temples where they feed on the lotus leaves and the various offerings by the parishioners. And Sri Lanka, particularly Yala National Park, is a haven for bird watchers and aficionado ornithologists. It's a marvelous country. There's approximately 800 different endemic species, and we are capable of organizing tours for specifically bird watchers. It's a wonderful destination for that. Back to heritage. When we come back from the tea gardens, we come to an amazing place called Galle. The old town of Galle, also an UNESCO World Heritage Site, is based on a fortified city which was built by the Europeans. So in reality, the heritage we see here is European. The Portuguese and the Dutch built up Galle. As a matter of fact, the city of Galle was a seaport, very important seaport. Even the Persians, the Arabs, the Greeks, Romans, Malays all came. But it's really the Europeans which built this humongous fortress approximately 400 years ago. The real charm, actually, of Old Galle lies in the quiet streets and in the backwater feeling. You really think you are in a museum, although it's living heritage. During the tsunami, which affected Sri Lanka so greatly, it is precisely the huge fortification around the city which completely protected it. Many villages nearby were destroyed, but not at all. Galle was not affected at all by the tsunami. You will find a number of Dutch churches. Let's not forget that Holland was a great seafaring power and had colonies all over Southeast Asia, such as Indonesia, bits and pieces in India and in Sri Lanka. You can see that the church in itself is not very ornamented in a pure Protestant style. In general, there is this humongous contention wall. There's a former church, Catholic church, which is now functioning as a mosque, a great lighthouse, and as you can see, the enormous ramparts and fortifications protected the city. Another aspect of it, and this is all over from Galle all the way to Negombo, which is a traditional fishing village, which is roughly actually north of Colombo Airport, you will find a number of wonderful fishing villages, and the boats come and go all days. to get a fresh catch. It's quite a colorful spectacle. And in general terms, the Indian Ocean coast has some of the best beaches in the entire world. Hence, there's a lot of Europeans which do come into these various all-inclusive resorts. Once again, many of these resorts don't look any different than what you can find in the Caribbean, in Mexico, and other parts of the world. Hence, Bestway Tours and Safaris has focused, of course, on World Heritage. We have a couple of tours available for you. One is called World Heritage Sites of Sri Lanka. It's a comprehensive 12-day cultural tour of the island and covers most of the things we have discussed today, including 7 World Heritage Sites. We have also another tour, which is Sri Lanka, Jewel of the Indian Ocean. This one goes a bit into the cultural triangle, but then spends quite a bit of time in Mount Lavina. Mount Lavina is actually not a mountain, but a beach resort. And it's an ideal combination of culture and beach. Because Sri Lanka is so conveniently located, or the normal combinations and the most obvious one is to combine a tour to Sri Lanka either at the end or the beginning of your South India tour. Also, a good combination is to travel to the Maldives, as this is not very much of a distance. The other idea is perhaps to add Sri Lanka with its wonderful Buddhist heritage to trips to Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. There are very good connections to Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, or Singapore, so that's another way you might want to think of Sri Lanka. Again, I recommend to you to get our Journeys to India and South Asia brochure for more details. All of our tours include superior or deluxe class hotels with private facilities, the meals as they're indicated on the itinerary, arrival and departure transfers, tours and sightseeing as per the itinerary, including entrance fees to sites and museums, the services of a local English-speaking driver guide, road taxes, parking fees, and drivers' overnight wages. It is very important to note that unlike India, Sri Lanka does not have good railway communication. The bus service in general tends to be spotty, and it is, albeit a small destination, a difficult destination to get around unless you happen to have your own driver and guide. Our minimum group size for all of our tours is 2 passengers with a maximum limited to 12 passengers. At Bestway Tours, we do believe that people wish to enjoy a destination. Hence, when you're coming in with a big bus and visit a given site or go for lunch or so much time is wasted with meals, photo stops, bathroom stops, and that is made much more efficient, allowing your clients to spend much more time at the destination. We also have many years of experience in customizing tour programs to suit your own areas of interest and dates, whether that is for a solo traveler or a group. The whole idea is that when you plan a trip with us, you will save time guaranteed, money, and above all, hassle. At Bestway Tours and Safaris, we are committed to providing you with superior quality travel and real value per dollar prices. For detailed itinerary information, optional tours, and additions, we encourage you to visit our website, www.bestway.com, or you can call us in Vancouver at 604-264-7378, or call us on our toll-free number anywhere in Canada or the United States at 1-800-663-0844. Or feel free to send us an email to bestway@bestway.com. We have created also a number of new brochures which are available to you. We happily encourage you to order these from us. They contain great amount of details and brilliant itinerary ideas. These brochures are mostly good tour planners and you can peruse them alongside with our website to get great tour ideas and suggest various tours to your clients. With this, we conclude today's webinar. I hope you have enjoyed it,